Well, welcome to Utah Watershed Council. We appreciate everyone coming on this little nippy day. And let's see, Carly, we're going to start off with Carly doing a roll call of the board.
Okay, Joel Ferry, Tim Davis, Kelly Pearson, Dustin Jansen,
Here.
Chris Hamlet,
Present.
Ken White, Joel Williams,
Present online.
Teresa Wilhelmsen, Robert Moore, Scott Paxman, Victor Iverson, Val J. Rigby, Ricky Ranko Browning, she's here, Marcel Shoup, Warren Peterson,
From beautiful downtown Oasis.
Nathan Dowgs, Tammy Pearson,
I'm here, Minersville.
Laura Briefer, Mike Noel,
I'm here, Kanab.
Bill Winfield,
I'm here, Moab,
Andy Nickel,
Grand County.
Dex Winterton, or I think Peggy Killian was going to be his proxy. Are you here, Peggy? Okay. Sterling Brown, Rick Smith, Cody Allred.
I'm here online, Carly.
Thank you. Brett Palmer. All right, thank you.
Very good. Again, welcome everyone to the council meeting. We're going to start off with a few presentations, and we're going to start off with the Kanab Creek Virgin River Watershed Council report with, I think Dave Jessup is going to give that one, if he's online or here. Maybe not. Do you see him? Okay, Andy's up real quick here. We'll move on to Sevier River Watershed with Andy Nickel. So,
okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Sevier River, we met 3 times this last year. Pretty quick. Most of them were around the state water plan with Stephanie McGinnis. We were able to go on one tour this year of the Richfield area where we saw the Paiute Canal diversion, the newly completed Vermilion Weir, and part of Richfield Cities. They just redid their drinking water supply, and we were able to take a tour of their pump station and their gathering field where they collect the water out of the spring. That was probably the highlight of the year for us. The tour, getting to know other areas, is kind of how we've focused our council for the purpose of it. Really kind of struggling on the council this year. Starting to see a lot of lost interest from council members, a lot of falling short on participation. I don't know where we're going to go from here with it. A lot of the tour was probably the most well-attended portion of our year, and I mean, it was good. Just the education of learning each part of our river system and some of the different parts of it, but we're struggling to find beyond that what our purpose really is. I know we've had some stuff with the state water plan that has helped, but a lot of the council members, some of their terms are going to be up this year. Here in January, we'll be meeting shortly. I expect some of those to step down, just as their participation has been very minimal. So we're struggling a little bit down there in the Sevier River area with that, and that's pretty much how our year went. And it's dry, so, yeah.
So how about interest in filling some positions if they're not gonna re-up?
We haven't got that far
Yeah,
yet.
yep. But it could be tough.
Could be. I think we're gonna struggle. We struggled initially with interest in it. It took quite an effort to get people to sign up for it.
Yeah.
And I've just seen our attendance at the council meetings go down pretty much every meeting. Like I said, the most well-attended was the tour because we had something to do
Yeah, right. Yep.
and people were interested in it.
Yeah, good point. Any hands up? Okay, appreciate that, Andy. Any comments, questions for Andy at this point? Go ahead, Mike.
So we are the headwaters of the Sevier River here in Kane County. And we hadn't got any much snow here until just recently. But we did get a good snowpack for you guys waiting for moisture to come down. So that was nice. But I just wonder why we're not getting much participation there. That's like one of the most important rivers in the state of Utah. And I'm just trying to figure that out. Again, we're excited that we got some snow, and we don't own that many water rights in Kane County on the Sevier, but we do own some. And I'm just wondering what we need to do there. Is it that we're not doing anything to improve watersheds? I know one of the things I've harped on a lot is we've got to do more timber harvesting. We've got to do a little better job on our watersheds and creating more water. These pinyon juniper forests don't do us any good at all as far as getting water back in the ground and the supply that we need throughout the summer. Now down here in Kanab, and I know we missed that, we've got more water in our reservoir than we've had in 10 years, and I have no idea why, but we're at 77%. And last year we were at 68%. So maybe that's a question he could help me answer.
I think it comes to purpose. I mean, we're trying to figure out what we're really going to do. I mean, people will come to meetings, they'll participate if they feel like they're doing something. But we've just struggled to find what we're really supposed to be doing in these meetings. We can get together and, like I said, the tour was pretty well attended because they were getting something out of it, but most of the other meetings, we got together, reviewed minutes, and there wasn't a lot for us to be doing.
Yes, Teresa, go ahead.
I don't know if this would be helpful, but I noticed one of the other handouts that we all have is just maybe some topics for future meetings. Maybe if some of those were of interest to folks that they would attend, and maybe have that throw out what may be helpful. I don't know, just something like
Good idea.
to do.
Yep. You would think there's got to be something that people are interested in. I mean, they farm, they ranch, they want water, so I don't know. I'm at a loss as well.
I want to hear from Warren.
Yeah, I was expecting him to raise his hand, so go ahead, Warren.
And raise my hand and turn on my microphone.
There you go.
And I wonder, and I'm gonna do something that my my good friend Mike taught me to do, which is how to walk out on thin ice.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if the Sevier Council is caught between a couple of bookends. One of those bookends is just it's boring. We already know this. Why bother? And the other end of the other bookend is it's too hot to handle. We're not going to go there. And one reason I'd like to see this council in particular continue is because I think a lot of conflicts that come up could be worked out if the council members get to know each other and trust each other. And I can say it in 3 words, examples of what those too hot to handle things might be. Cusherum, Hatchtown. And if it's just that, why have the same fights over again? We already know we've already been through that. It's like the old club that got together to tell jokes and finally they just numbered them and instead of actually. So I wonder if that, I don't want to put you on the spot, Andy, because you may not want to answer that loaded of a question, but it seems that with the development going on, well, another one is the Paul Van Valley groundwater determination or groundwater management plan being worked on. It seems to me there's some things that a good functioning watershed council should be the ideal place to resolve conflicts, but I'm pretty sure, Andy, you don't want to, as the chair, you don't want to have to preside over too many fights either. So I'm wondering how to find that middle ground and give your council things to work on that build relationships rather than lead to conflict. Sorry, I didn't give any answers and I didn't ask a question, but I made a comment. So I respect Mr. Nichols significantly, and if he wants to tell me to be quiet and stay home, I'm at least halfway there. I'm staying home.
Well, Warren, I'm from Delta, so we're used to water fights a little bit. That kind of comes with being from there. One of our issues that we've run into is on some of these water sensitive topics that you've brought up, Hatchtown, Cusherum, the Pawvent Valley. We also have another board that has been in existence for 80 years down there that most of the council members are also members of, which is the Sevier River Water Users Association. And so we kind of end up with a little bit of which board do you handle it out of and which one has the most authority. And so for a lot of those issues that we get, that are specifically dealing with water rights, the Sevier River Water Users has been the one handling those because they are the water right holders and owners on the Sevier. So to try to pass that off on the Watershed Council, this is where we're running into a little bit of whose responsibility is it? Is it the water right owners or the Watershed Council? And so as the Water Users Association, we've chosen to handle most of those conflicts or issues through that association and board. And that could be leading to why we're struggling to find purpose in the Sevier River Watershed Council. How much do you let spill over from one to the other, and how much are we just doing our work twice, if you will? We don't need to address it in both councils, I don't feel like, or both boards. So that's been one of the issues that we've dealt with, is that has been a board that, it's been there, first incorporated in the 50s, the 1950s. So I think that's been one of our struggles, and a lot of our council members are also Sevier River Water Users members and sit on that board. So some of our meetings feel like we're having a meeting and then a week later on a different board we're talking about the same topic.
Okay, well, Trevor, go ahead.
Oh, guess you're not going to get to see me. You're going to get to see my desk. I guess I'll turn the camera off. Anyway, 2 comments. The first one would be our up at the Bear River. What we do is at the previous, like the meeting, at the end of the meeting, we ask before the meeting, we ask individuals to think about what they'd like to discuss at the next meeting, because the individuals on the council are usually the best ones that know about what's going on and what they'd like to learn more about. And then at the end of our meeting, we ask what we'd like to agenda for the next meeting for subject matter, because there's lots of interesting things to share, but you just don't know if it's going to interest the group. And so you kind of have a discussion on, yeah, I'd like to hear about this, or, yeah, that's cool, you've got that going on, I'd like to learn more about it. And it has helped us have some more things to do and not put all that burden on the presidency of the council to kind of come up with the agenda. And then also the members of the council are the ones usually making the presentation, so everyone kind of takes ownership of that. So that's something you might consider. And then the second thing with your Sevier River Water Users Association versus the Watershed Council, the Jordan River Commission and the Jordan River Watershed Council have the same problem. And how they've been dealing with it is they schedule their meetings for the same days. And then they do, in your case, I probably would suggest doing the Sevier River Water Users meeting first. And then whatever subject matter you don't cover in that, you can cover in the Watershed Council's meeting. So you're not duplicating what you're doing. And then also, having been from that area, I know some people travel quite a distance to those meetings, and it prevents them from having to go twice, because there really, like you said, is no reason to have 2 bodies. But at the same time, you can't really eliminate Watershed Council, because there's people who are not part of that group who want to be part of the Watershed Councils. And so that would be my suggestion. It limits travel and it simplifies so that you can get things talked about in the appropriate arena.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. I was thinking of saying the same thing, of somehow combining them or doing them in conjunction with each other. But it's been my concern from the start that we've got to keep momentum going. We've got to keep interest, or it is going to fall on its face. And so, yeah, whatever we can do to keep the momentum.
I appreciate the comments. A lot of those we have tried. We've asked for suggestions from council members to email them over. Our inbox is still empty with them. And so I think it's a general lack of interest on it. As far as combining with Sevier River water users, just the way that organization works, it's usually an all-day meeting. It's usually directors' meetings, shareholders' meetings. It's a little bit different situation. So anyway, any interest or any help we can get from the board, the state, for some direction of what we should go with it, but we're struggling right now. So
Okay, good to know. Okay, we'll keep that in mind for sure. Thanks, Andy. Oh, geez. Can't. Tammy's first? I haven't been watching the board.
I'm first.
Yep. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'll have at it then. We've kind of had the same problem, and I think that when it comes down to it, there's actually, like, we don't have any authority, I think, is the problem, is everybody's sitting on multiple boards. It's the STP, the same 10 people that come to everything, that voice their opinion for everything, that do all the work. You know, it depending on the size of the county or whatever, it might be the same 3 people, who knows, but Cedar, the Beaver and Cedar Watershed Council are doing the same problem. So,
Yeah.
Oh, here's my presentation. Are you ready for my presentation? I was still commenting on
Yeah, no,
the question.
not quite yet. We've got a couple other comments, so appreciate that, Tammy. Who else
Yeah.
is up? Warren and Mike. Go ahead, Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Andy's very good at hitting the nail on the head, and I think he's done that quite well. So I don't mean to detract at all from anything he said. He's presented it fairly and fair and square. I'll offer that if there's any other of the Watershed Council members that want to sit on a small temporary committee just to brainstorm what might help some of these watershed councils that are, are seeing that lack of purpose, and then report back to this committee, to the Watersheds Council on any recommendations. I hate to see this effort fail, but I also don't want to send people out on a fool's errand. So maybe if the chair was willing to, say, appoint 3, 4, 5 members of this council to take a closer look and then let you move on with the agenda today, that may be a way to approach this question.
Great, thanks, Warren. We have the legislative subcommittee that's already formed, but anyone that's interested in meeting with a smaller group that we can kick around some ideas is more than welcome. So just email myself or Carly if you're interested in meeting, and we'll set up a time that we can meet. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I'm gonna say the same thing again. I've been up on Beaver Mountain here in the last year a few times, and I've seen the work the Forest Service is doing. They're doing a great job up there in creating better watershed, better infiltration of the water that we get. And I think the same thing could happen up on Cedar Mountain. I think you guys we can, as a Watershed Council, push the Forest Service to get in there and get rid of some of those conifers and bring back some of those broadleaf poplar and those types that will infiltrate, and we won't have the runoff that we had. I think that'll make a huge difference. So if we're talking about taking a water right and creating more water, that gets everybody interested. I know you guys down in Delta, that would be something for you. One of the things I'd also like to see, we've got 3,000 water connections up there now, and it's forced us to put in some facultative lagoons. We just finished a $5 million project this year, but I would much rather see that water treated and a rapid infiltration system and send it on down its way back to in the Sevier River. Those are other things. I don't know how much water that would create, but to me, it makes a whole lot more sense than letting it evaporate away. That requires funds, but again, there's some simple solutions and things that we can do to enhance the water that we have, to improve our watersheds, and to reuse water, and then we all benefit. So I thought that was one of the main objectives of watershed councils. I love what we're doing, but I think that would get people involved. Right now, a East Fork of the Virgin River water right per acre foot is about $40,000 an acre foot. Put that in your and see how much that is. So 1 acre foot of water that's saved and created is a tremendous asset to the people of Washington County. So it's a hard problem, but anyway, that's what I have.
Great, thanks, Mike. I think pretty much all the councils need to get the Forest Service more involved. It's easy said, hard to do. They don't have funds either, but they need to be part of the council, and they need to hear our concerns for sure. So good point. All right, let's move. Michael.
And I thought I saw Mark
Michael?
Yeah, that's Mike Larson. I'm sorry my camera won't work, but I'm part of the representing the sand pitch on the Sevier River Watershed Council. I would hate to see that go down, because I know there's a severe water users and stuff like that, but that doesn't really include the sand pitch in San Pete County. So I'd I'd like to work with Andy and the chairman and try to keep that going, just because that's really the only input Sanpete has into that river system. And so I'm excited to try to keep it going. I'll commit myself to do more if we can do it. And up in here in Sanpete, Sanpete, the Forest Service has been doing quite a bit of deforestation work and stuff too, and it has helped. I can actually see more water coming off the mountain. So I agree, we need to get the Forest Service heavily involved if we can, and even the state forestry, fire and state lands, private foresters, whoever, and try to thin these forests down and make them function right again. And I'd be excited to try to incorporate that into our council. Anyway, just a comment.
That's a great comment, Michael. Appreciate that, and also your efforts to keep that council going. So appreciate that very much. Let's see. Did we have anybody else?
Can I add?
Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Laura Beaver. Just on the topic of forest management, it might be an opportunity window to bring in the state and federal parties to the new stewardship agreement, to each of the watershed councils or even the state watershed council, to learn more about how we can interact with them under that new construct.
That's a good point. Great point. All right. So, Andy, so much for a 3-minute presentation. I know you did. Thank you for that. Appreciate it, Andy. Okay, Tammy, we're moving on to your report. Go ahead, Tammy.
Tammy, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm technically challenged. Okay, you can go to the next slide. We actually had 4 meetings last year. We worked with, our first meeting was with Nick Braithwaite with DWR. Talked a lot about the Watershed Restoration Initiative and successes, across our area. He presented various successful projects, and then talked about if there was a need for new projects to get them signed up. I think, he wanted someone to attend some of the WRI meetings. I'm not sure that ever happened. Nobody ever that I know of our board that actually attended one, but we do the same thing at the end of every meeting. We talk about what's our next meeting, and we actually plan the agenda for the next one, so it's not left up to leadership. So the next slide, please. I'm a lot better at taking pictures than I am of taking notes. So next slide, please. Our next meeting was in Beaver at our commission chambers, and we talked about the state plan, the state subcommittees. You can see the slide presentation, and that you can move on to the next slide. So we talked about all the different initiatives and that in the basin. As always, we approved the previous minutes, talked about and so here's maybe an opportunity for this next year, having a joint session with the Sevier Watershed Councils. So that might be one meeting that'd be fun. I'll bring Curd, maybe that'll bring people in. Becca Fry did a really good presentation on that survey. So that was kind of those slides from the first slide. And then we talked about flood mitigation, talked about federal funding, a lot of those different things. I would offer the shared stewardship. We have a new contract, yes, but it's been ongoing for several years. Beaver River has done shared stewardship for probably 7 or 8 years. I think the original one that was signed was back in 2019, if I remember right. But I'd be willing to do a presentation on that. In fact, that we did a video a few years ago, professional video on the shared stewardship projects. And I'm willing to share that with anybody. And I don't think it's going to get outdated. It was a very well put together video, and it's easily shared. But I think Mike was right. Mike Noel is talking about the timber treatment. So we've had a lot of conversations over that, and that shared stewardship is a wonderful program that helps with all the health of the forest, but also brings a lot more water into the basins. Okay, next slide. Let's see. There you are. So our August meeting was the one that she was showing us all the survey highlights and those kind of things. And then you can go on to the next slide. We went up on the Bryan Head fire and talked about a lot of the projects, a lot of the rehabilitation, a lot of the impacts that had happened on the ground, even though it's been, probably 8 years ago now. Next slide. Former commissioner from Iron County, Alma Adams, he gave us a tour of their private property and showed us all the different projects and stuff that they'd done, and talked about the coordination they'd done with Forest Service and with State Forestry and Fire. It was really good presentation. Okay, next slide. Our last meeting, we lost one of our board members, and so we ended up just having a quick online meeting, approve the minutes, and set up our next schedule for January, and then we'll be doing elections and that here the end of the week. So that's our report.
Thank you very much, Tammy. Any comments, questions from the council? Great. Well, let's see. Saw a hand up. Warren.
Yeah, I talked about going home and being quiet. I haven't mastered the being quiet part yet. Wanted to ask Tammy, for as you have various stakeholders represented on the Watershed Council, cities and counties and so on, as they meet, do you know how well the representatives carry any information from the Watershed Council back out to their representative agencies, or are those folks already getting the information somewhere else? Is that so? Information out and then feedback coming back. That's a cycle that I'm looking to see if it's developing in these different councils.
That's kind of, I'd say it's hard to measure because we do have time for council members to report, and we have those kind of discussions. I think the problem is, just like with Sevier, it's the same people that show up every time, and the extended groups never show up. And they showed up for the very first meeting, and then we have never been able to get them back. So we get on average maybe 12 to 15 people show up, which is a pretty good spread and a pretty good representation. But then nobody else, and you never hear from them. They don't respond. They just, I don't know. Like I said,
Chair, maybe the answer to that is just to give out a lot of water grants at these meetings so that people have to show up to get them.
Right, there you go. Yeah, make that a requirement.
Thanks, Warren. Okay, anybody else? I think we're good. I don't see any comments online. Okay, thank you very much, Tammy, for that presentation. Okay, moving on to the next. Well, let's go back up to Kanab Creek. Anyone, is Dave Jessup here, or anyone else representing Kanab Creek, Virgin River, that would like to say anything? Okay, we'll push that one on to the next council.
Scott.
Yes. Oh, Sterling. Yes.
Before you change agenda topics and off these local councils, I would be curious to hear from council members that are here online or in person. is this problem that we're hearing today unique to the larger local councils where council members are having to travel some distance? Are the smaller geographical local councils also experiencing something similar to this? Is part of the challenge just a travel issue? I'd like to have some feedback on that as some of us may offer some feedback to Chair Scott and Warren and that subcommittee.
Any comments are welcome.
I'll make a quick comment. I find the same situation amongst our group, maybe not quite as severe as what they're seeing there, but there is travel in our neck of the woods. As you know, San Juan County and Grand County, the two of them are fairly large, so it is quite a bit of travel. There is a Zoom option, but it doesn't work extremely well, especially sometimes down at the hideout. You know, you're just using an owl to sign in and out of those meetings. So we've had overall good attendance, or fairly good, but again, a direction and what are we trying to accomplish, I think. And just for the record, I'd be more than glad to help on that subcommittee, Mr. Peterson.
Great. Good to hear. So are you saying that travel is an issue for a lot of the members, or at least maybe communication is a bigger issue?
I believe it's a little bit of both, but I would say an overall agenda summary of what we're trying to accomplish statewide here, something to get some, what's the meat and potatoes here that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, spur the conversation coming from the Utah Council. That's a good point, State Council. Anyone else would like to comment on that topic? Cody, go ahead, and then we'll have Laura.
Sure. Yeah, just another quick comment representing the West Colorado River Watershed Council to Sterling's question. From my perspective, I think our council, I believe I communicated this last fall in our first annual report, was the challenges that we are seeing and still are today is just the vast size of our watershed and the travel, and we're very we have great discussions about in the northern part of our watershed, but very little discussion and collaboration in the southern part of it, other than Mike. I will say Mike Noel's he's been very good at participating, and he's brought a couple of people on board down there. So we're working through it, but the answer to the question is I do believe that is a deterrent to feeling like we're really productive, is just the size of our watershed and the logistics of getting people, at the table.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I appreciate the comments. That not sure exactly what to do about that, but it's something that we need to talk about for sure. So thank you. Laura, did you have a comment?
I'll let Mike go. He has his hand raised, or he did.
I was going to move off and just, I was going to go back to that East Fork of the Virgin. I do have, when you get done with this discussion, I do have something very important to present on that, on the Cove Reservoir project. That's a big one for Washington County on the Virgin Rivers, East Fork of the Virgin, and for Kane County. But go ahead. I will say one thing. We're very involved with the Colorado River users. I don't know if anybody knew, but all the water, all the storage is going to Nevada. And I don't know how that happened, but we're down significantly in Lake Powell, but they agreed at the last meeting that they're sending everything the lake needs. So that kind of hurts us.
Just on
in
this.
Kane County.
Thanks, Mike.
Just on this topic, in addition to the size of the watershed and travel, I think other factors could be, how much repetition is there between the same stakeholders and other water-related meetings, and just capacity involved with the same people. I think that's what's worked for the Jordan River Watershed Council, is we were able to take advantage of that overlap. But I feel if we had a whole separate watershed council, it would have taxed a lot of the same people in additional meetings. And then the other part would be just like coalescing around some aspect of the watershed, or a mission or a strategy that might be outside of what other groups are doing around water rights or water distribution or upper watershed management. Like maybe there's something that is more inclusive of the entire watershed in some of these cases.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, all good points. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Cody, you still have another comment, or did your hand still raised?
No, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay, we will move on since we're clock's a ticking. So we'll invite Stephanie to talk about our state water plan update that's finalizing this year.
It sure is.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Good afternoon. I think the last time I was in front of this group was back in April, and we've made a significant amount of progress since then. So I want to just get you all up to speed on what we've accomplished, kind of what we're working on right now, and then what's on our agenda for the next couple of months. Next slide, please. I really wanted to just start out just by acknowledging the efforts of a whole lot of people that have really helped to get us to where we're at right now. We have been meeting on a regular basis with our collaborative agencies, our sister agencies. We've been meeting with the directors pretty much every month recently, and last week we actually just held a half-day workshop to really hone in on sort of the themes that will be guiding the state water plan. We have probably around 25 to 30 staff from those sister agencies that are contributing content to the plan. Certainly we're thankful for all of the help from the watershed councils to really help us to get at some of those basin level challenges and needs. We have primarily at this point been working with the water conservancy districts through the watershed councils, but I'll talk in just a moment about kind of some targeted outreach that we'll have with them here very soon. And I also just want to thank pretty much all of our staff at the Division of Water Resources. Just about everyone in our division has some piece of contributing to the plan. So I just want to acknowledge all of those efforts before we start. Next slide. And just because it has been several months since we've been together, I just want to sort of anchor us back to what the state water plan is meant to accomplish. All of those key components are lined out in code. And the state water plan, it's meant to be a framework to support informed decision making. Our team, we are aiming to do that at the individual, local, and state levels. Certainly the plan will be identifying available water resources, providing strategies and guiding efforts to manage those resources. And it is called out that we work with a wide range of stakeholders to develop the plan. Next slide. A couple of other things, just kind of what I see as high-level outcomes that are called out in statute. We are to be consistent with the existing state water policy. We are doing that. We do have content already drafted for the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan, or UWIP. And I just want to draw your attention to these last 4 bullets, because this is what really shaped how we structured the plan. We have an entire chapter on healthy watersheds and ecosystems. We have a chapter on communities, as well as a chapter on agriculture. Next slide. And the overall vision for the plan, we want to provide for a safe and reliable water supply that sustains our communities, it supports our economy, and it protects our environment, not just now, but also looking ahead into the future. Next slide. And these are sort of the overarching themes that will be guiding how we determine, content across chapters, as well as it will be guiding the recommendations that we provide at the end of each chapter. And I just want to touch on each of these just briefly so that we're all somewhat on the same page of how we're defining these. Next slide. And this is kind of a look behind the scenes. We're still wordsmithing this, but the overall idea for water security, we want to elevate information in the plan that helps us to reduce risk and ensure a safe, resilient water supply. And it does that, we want it to do that under a wide variety of conditions, not just now, but also into the future. Next slide. For collaboration, we very much want to prioritize coordination among agencies across sectors. We've already sort of heard that today. We've got a lot of different stakeholders that are maybe potentially feeling like they're duplicating efforts. And so we really want to, I think one of the big goals of this plan is to really align efforts and make sure that we're all working towards that shared future. Next slide. And stewardship, we certainly want to provide information and recommendations that help users of the plan to identify responsible and sustainable uses of water to meet our current needs as well as into the future. Next slide. And I also just want to, I presented this slide last time I was in front of this group. I just want to bring this back up. Again, we are barreling down the path to when statute calls for this plan to be finalized, and so that will be by the end of the year. But I do want to back up to when I was here in April. We were just kicking off these meetings with the watershed councils, and I'll give you a little bit more information on that. And I also just want to just cover briefly our public meetings. We were calling them water talks. We held those in each of the 11 basins. So I'll talk a little bit about that, then share where we are right now and what we still need to accomplish to get to this public comment period that we are aiming to hold at some point in July. Next slide. So with the watershed councils, again, we are meeting with them late spring and into the summer, and we are asking them to help us identify challenges and needs as well as a success to highlight in the plan at that basin level. And we also ask for their support with these public meetings. And I'm really grateful to all of the councils for really helping us to do that. And so I want to get into the challenges just a little bit. Certainly each basin is unique, but we did see some common threads across the state. Next slide. And so at a very high level, these are some of the challenges that were identified just across just about every single basin. And I want to touch on each of these for just a moment. Next slide. We heard a lot of concern about water supply in terms of reliability and uncertainty. We've been talking a lot about, low snowpack this year and things like that. And so folks are really concerned about this. One of the things that we also heard from several councils was the need to better understand the connection between ground and surface water, as well as to understand, at these local levels, the aquifer recharge rate, and also kind of what that withdrawal rate is. Next slide. And we've already heard this earlier in this meeting. A lot of folks are very much concerned about protecting watersheds for a variety of reasons, from mitigating wildfire risk to wanting to improve water quality for downstream users. And invasive species is front and center on a lot of minds, especially tamarisk and phragmites. Next slide. We have a lot of folks that are very much worried about growth and development and what that will mean for our water supplies. And I'll say one of the, I think, strongest messages that we heard across the basins is our agricultural producers are really wanting support. I think there's, in many areas, that sort of rub that's starting to grow between those rural sort of ag communities and then the urban communities. And so talking a lot about how we can support them. And a lot of that was mentioned as being education to get folks to really understand kind of what the importance is of agriculture. Next slide. And I would say funding, I think for just about everyone is top priority, from funding to help improve agricultural operations to dealing with aging infrastructure in the M&I sector. We've also heard this already today, but increasing sort of that coordination and communication and collaboration among agencies, especially local and state agencies, having better communication with those federal partners such as United States Forest Service, and also just better communication among local entities. We also heard a need for continued technical assistance from state partners. Next slide. And our public meetings, I would say that everything that we heard from the watershed councils was really echoed in the water talks. I don't think that we heard anything new or especially surprising from the public, but we held one of these in each basin, kind of late summer and into the fall. And I think when we tallied it up, we had over 250 attendees across all those meetings, which I think I was pretty pleased with. And what was really interesting is I don't think we even scheduled enough time. I mean, it felt like we almost had to sort of start kicking people out at the end. And so I was really happy that people wanted to stay and they were really passionate. For our talks, we would talk in one big group after a short presentation so that they could help inform the plan and share what their concerns and needs were. Larger groups, we would break out into these smaller discussion groups. Like this is a picture from the Uintah Basin talk where we had, I think our largest crowd, I think we had 55 to 60 people attend that, which was really impressive. So I can't thank the watershed councils enough. They really helped us with our securing venues and advertising, and just showing up and being part of the conversation, I think was very valuable. Next slide. So that brings me up to where we are currently. At this point, we have a draft of just about all of the chapters. They're in various levels of sort of revision and polishing. And as I mentioned earlier, we have worked with the watershed councils to identify challenges and needs, but we'll be circling back with them this month and into next month to hone in on a success that they would like to highlight in the plan. Next slide. And I do want to just briefly run you through and just give you a super high-level overview of each chapter. Chapter 1 really setting the foundation for the plan, but the meat really starts when we get into chapters 2 through 8. Next slide. So in chapter 2, this is where we'll line out really kind of what is our current water supply and demand. We'll talk about how we're measuring supply and use. We'll identify constraints and maybe pieces where we'd like to know a little bit more about our water supply and demand. And what's up on the screen right now is just an example of what our team can do with those data. They just finished a water budget model run through the year 2024. And so right now this is showing diversions, depletions, and return flow by basin and by major sector. And so we'll be highlighting this sort of information in this chapter. Next slide. In this next chapter, we'll be sort of really diving into what are some of those unknowns and uncertainties when we think about water here in Utah. So our team will be modeling out future supply and demand, and we'll be looking at drivers of change. And certainly climate and population will be two of those that are something that we want to know about as we move into the future and how that'll affect those. And we'll also discuss how we can adapt to this changing water landscape through technology, conservation, policy, and management. Next slide. Chapter 4, we'll talk about how water is governed and managed in the state, and I'm hoping that this chapter will also help to provide, a little bit of that certainty in how we provide for water here in the state, even though sometimes it feels like we've got some uncertainty in our future. Next slide. Chapter 5, again, this is one of those core focus areas. So we'll be discussing the role of natural systems and all of the services that they provide. We'll be talking about also the threats that our watersheds face. We'll be touching on wildfire, invasive species, pollution. Next slide. And our communities chapter will be highlighting the importance of long-term planning. We'll be discussing how we can continue to improve our demand management, as well as how we can expand and optimize our supply. Next slide. And then kind of our final focus area, again, will be on agriculture. So we'll highlight all the programs and funding opportunities that are available to our producers. And we'll also touch on BMPs, both off and on farm, that are available to help out ranchers and farmers. Next slide. And I'm not going to talk about Chapter 9 again. That's kind of our conclusion, and that is the one chapter that we don't have drafted yet. But I do want to just touch on this Chapter 8. We would like to really kind of get into that basin level in the State Water Plan. It's hard. The State Water Plan is very much at that 10,000 foot view, but we want to dig down into the basins a bit. So we'll be devoting a couple of pages per basin to really highlight what are those challenges and needs within that basin, and we'll also highlight that success. And what we have coming up, we are really doing our best to get a complete first draft of the plan ready by mid-March. We'll be sharing that out with our internal partners, so all of our sister agencies that are helping to guide the development, the directors, as well as their staff that have been providing content. So we'll get their feedback, incorporate those comments, and then we would like to share that back out with some of our external partners. So that would definitely include the watershed councils. We definitely would like to have their feedback on what we've created here. And this is also where we'll have some direct targeted outreach to the water conservancy districts. Again, a lot of our interaction so far with the water conservancy districts has been through the watershed councils, but we'll be reaching out just to make sure that we get their feedback and input on the plan. Next slide. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. I would also, if you have ideas on how we can continue to best work with you. And I'll also just throw out a shameless plug. We've heard some councils saying they're really trying to work on what they can do as a council. When we started working with them on the state water plan, our hope was that that could be some, kind of a nice softball that we could lob out, that they could help us to work on this. And, we'd love to continue working on the state water plan with the watershed councils, even beyond December 2026. I'd like to really work with groups on some of the recommendations, and are there things that we could partner and sort of leverage each other to move the ball forward.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. That was a great overview. I was glad to hear, because it was going to be a question of mine, that you were highlighting the watersheds throughout the state and some information particular to those watersheds, because whether you're on the south end or the north end, a statewide plan sometimes doesn't relate to you. And so this, I think that's very important to have that chapter in there to talk about things that do or might relate to you better. So thank you.
Yeah. And, it was really interesting because I think in some of the southern parts, just meeting with the public and even council members, this plan will just be on Great Salt Lake. And certainly Great Salt Lake is front and center, but, we very much are interested in representing all of the basins.
Perfect.
So it's been really great, I think, to have all of this input. I've been really impressed with the level of input that we've had from the watershed councils, as well as our sister agencies that have really been helping to guide this effort.
Good. Any questions, comments for Stephanie? Sterling.
Stephanie, what would you do differently if you had to do the road show again? What did you learn that you would do differently to extract more or different information?
If I could do it all over again, I would tack on 1 or 2 years to the timeline. I think that honestly has been the biggest problem. I started with, actually, this week is probably my 1 year anniversary with the division. And so, coming into this and trying to get running, I really do feel like we're sort of building the plane while we're flying it. And so I think sort of slowing that down. I felt a little bit bad when we worked with the watershed councils. I hadn't even had a chance to meet with them. I just sort of came in, I felt like really hot of, okay, I'm here to talk about how you can help with the state water plan. And so I think slowing that down. And we had a lot of conversations about, sort of the bang for the buck with these public meetings of, do we take all of our staff to, Monticello and we only have 8 people show up? But I tell you what, I I was really impressed, even when we had small groups, how valuable that was to just get that information from folks. But I think it's just as important for people to be able to feel heard, that we are there and interested, and it's very much going to be integrated into the plan. I mean, many of you were at these meetings. I mean, if you all have feedback on, we will be reaching out and asking all of you about this. How can we do better in the future? But I mean, what could, from your all's perspective, could we do better on that?
Thank you very much for that, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to participate in any of the local meetings, but you mentioned recommendations and recommendations tied with watersheds. Are there also recommendations or actions sort of at the state level as well, and are all of those captured in one chapter, or are they throughout?
The plan at this point is to provide those recommendations at the end of each chapter. Chapter 1 being an intro, and Chapter 9, we won't really have those. Chapter 9 will probably have some of those high-level recommendations, but we would like to have targeted recommendations at the end of each chapter. And again, we're aiming to do that at the individual, local, and state level. We're still working on those. We have sort of a rough list right now of some, but we will be running those back through you all and with our sister agency partners, just to make sure that we're getting that. And that was one of the nice things that came out of our workshop with the directors last week, was really what are those themes that we want to use as sort of that decision lens to, you know, what do we include or exclude as a recommendation? What do we prioritize? And I think that those themes will help us narrow in on that. And we'd like to track those moving into the future, thinking into 2027. I would like to see a more dynamic presence of the State Water Plan, online presence, so that's a little bit more dynamic. So rather than handing you all this version of the State Water Plan and then waiting 5-6 years to see the next edition, we would like to be online more and really tracking those goals and being able to show in real time how those are being accomplished.
Thank you.
Yeah, good points. Yes, Sterling.
You indicated on your timeline, Stephanie, that you hope to have a draft by mid-March, if I heard you correct, and that legislation requires you to have it finished into the calendar year. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What do you hope or envision this group will have with the plan, if anything, between March and December?
In terms of engagement or?
Reviewing it, discussing more input,
yes,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, my hope is once we do sort of that sister agency review, those are the folks that have been helping to provide content. We want to make sure that they're happy with, you know, the few paragraphs they've given us, and now we've infused it. We want to make sure that we've done that correctly. We haven't changed any messaging or their intent in that. And then once we've incorporated that, we'll hand that out to you all and ask for your review and feedback.
So when would that be? What would be your guess?
April is my hope. So again, we're working hard. We were just joking that this is kind of like a construction project where you have that end date and it just keeps getting moved back. But you know, with that December 2026, that's a non-negotiable. So we're hoping sometime probably mid to late April, to be able to hand that back or hand that to you all for review.
I'd like some real significant agenda time in this meeting. After we get our hands on that copy in April, we hope, you know, give us a month or so for some individual digestion, and then dedicate most, if not all, of one of these meetings to having you back with us, going through it chapter by chapter, see where we can offer maybe some further things.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Great comment. Did I see that a final draft was due in July, August timeframe?
Yes. So at that point, in probably early July is what we're aiming for right now. We'll have what we consider, you know, after all of the review from all of you,
yes,
what we consider to be a final draft. We'll put that out for public comment for 30 to 45 days.
Okay.
And then that'll give us time to, you know, kind of September, October, November to really finalize that and have that ready for final publication.
Chair, I'm wondering if we do, as was suggested around a discussion with the Watershed Council, if we might advertise that to the public to give them another opportunity to hear what's in the report, and hear the discussion with the different watershed councils to help them with their commenting as well.
Great suggestion. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you all.
Oh, Peggy. Peggy, did you have a comment? Sorry.
That's fine. I was just thinking the same thing about getting it out to the watershed councils to give them opportunities to look at it, to help with that peer reviews, to just have that information. Also, Stephanie, I was just curious, when you say sister agency reviews, who does that involve, or what does that entail?
Sure. So statute calls out for a handful of agencies to be involved with the development of the plan. So we have several entities here within the Department of Natural Resources. So water rights, state parks, outdoor rec, trying to think who else. I'm sure I'm missing someone. Oh, UGS here. We also are working with the Division of Drinking Water, Division of Water Quality within the Department of Environmental Quality. We're working with UDAF, Colorado River Authority of Utah, the Governor's Office. Joel, am I missing any that you can think of off the top of your head, or Teresa?
No, I was just curious,
Flipco.
but it sounds like it's all government entities, right?
Pretty much.
Those are our sister agencies. It is also called out in statute to work with the public, to also work with the water conservancy districts and the watershed councils. We really have done our best to engage with the public. Again, if I could do that, well, we will be doing it over here shortly, but you know, we'll have a much longer time frame to work with, so we can definitely engage with the public more when we have more time.
And I think the public would be better to engage and different things if they felt like that they were part of these conversations and not just certain entities.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
And that was our hope and our intent with those water talks in each of the basins. And so I think that we'll continue some form of that, and also expand our outreach and interaction with the public in the future.
I do know that at the Uintah watershed, we really appreciated how you handled the meet that we had there. We did have a lot of participation, and everybody was excited that you were there asking our input versus just telling us what our input was going to be. And so we really appreciated that. And I'm really glad to hear that you, as you say, that a lot of stuff you will be looking at trying to implement into that plan. That's very much appreciated.
Yeah, and I appreciate your help with that, Peggy. I was really extremely impressed with the turnout. Like I said, it was 55 to 60 people, and I was really happy with that turnout.
Thanks, Peggy. All right. Thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you all. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to pre-legislative session update with Joel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to keep this fairly brief here. The 2026 general session of the Utah Legislature starts a week from tomorrow, on the 20th, and will go through March 6th, 45 days of pure excitement. There are already 350 numbered bills listed, and if you haven't had a chance, it's always an interesting couple of hours to just scroll through those and take a look. I'll just highlight a few of the water ones that are already numbered and that we're interested in. I will say, in my opinion, there's nothing that's really groundbreaking so far this year, which is actually kind of nice for water.
Exactly.
We've had a lot of that the last several years, and we're still, as you know, Stephanie mentioned, we've been given a lot of work and a lot of tasks, and we're still heavily involved in all of that. And we'll see if this year there's a more additional focus on energy and critical minerals. But some of the water bills that are out, there's one on drinking water utility amendments from Representative Jack. That's House Bill 19. requiring a community water system to have an emergency response plan. There is a couple of water rights related bills. One titled Water Rights Amendments from Representative Schallenberger, House Bill 60, dealing with applications to appropriate public water. If there are questions on that one, I'd probably defer to Teresa on specifics there, but given I know that we're under some time here, I'll just kind of give some highlights, and then folks can look more into these as they have interest. Livestock watering amendments from Representative Chu, House Bill 63, I understand would alleviate some issues that ranchers have experienced with being able to use water for livestock watering. That should alleviate some concerns. Drinking water restructuring amendments from Representative Albrecht, House Bill 69. Talks about some of the potential violations of the Safe Water Drinking Act and allows a court to appoint a receiver for a public water system to kind of handle the remedial actions there. There is one from Representative Coford called Data Center Water Policy Amendments, House Bill 76, wanting the state to take a look at water use by data centers. And that one I know is a hot topic just because we hear a lot about how much water could be used by some of these data centers. There's another one targeting aquatic invasive species amendments from Representative Shipp, House Bill 125, would kind of deal more with the vessel operator side of things, some amendments to, some of the vessels owned by government agencies or rented or leased to hopefully improve the compliance there. The water loss study amendments from Representative Doug Owens is House Bill 154. This would direct our Division of Water Resources to do a study on water loss in the state. And this was heard in the Legislative Water Development Commission just last week, and we'll see if that one happens. We are interested at the division to kind of get a handle on what those losses might be, and then to be able to communicate that to the legislature to see if it merits additional action. There's another one from Representative Owens titled Water Rates Amendments, House Bill 155, which would encourage the setting of rate structures that promote water conservation. So you could have a lower tier that would be for water-wise indoor use, and then a tier above that would also then include water-wise outdoor use, so that those would be reasonable for someone who's using a reasonable amount of water indoor and outdoor to be able to do so in an affordable way. And then there would be an excessive use tier for someone who's choosing to use an excessive amount of water, that there could be some additional fees to cover that higher water use, and that could be helpful in promoting water conservation efforts. Let's look at some of the others. Representative Colin Jack has House Bill 187 on titled Water Amendments that looks at changing the forfeiture in the lower basin of the Colorado River, which would be Washington County. So that one was also heard in the Legislative Water Development Commission last week. And then the last House bill I have in my list right now, House Bill 215, Political Subdivision Landscaping Authority, that deals with water-wise landscaping in land owned by municipalities or counties, and kind of talking about vegetation removal. And then going over to the Senate bills, there's just a few there. Representative.
Can I have you just back up really quick? Did you say it was House Bill 187? I apologize.
Yes, with Representative Colin Jack in Washington County. You are correct, 187. Over to the Senate bills, Kevin Stratton, Senator, is running a bill, Senate Bill 20, that would is this the one I was thinking of? Nope, that's not. There's another one from Representative or Senator Stratton on defining functional turf. Well, he's got one too. Yeah, they both do. Maybe it is the one that I referenced.
Representative Okerlund was trying to define
Non-
functional turf.
no-
Or non-functioning turf.
Yeah, Okerlund's was
And
non-functional,
Stratton's
Stratton's
was-
was functional, and maybe we'll meet in the middle. Let's go to, there's a interesting, Senator Winterton is running the airborne chemical amendments again. This will be Senate Bill 23 this year. It is to prohibit the release of chemicals from commercial airliners. So it doesn't apply to our cloud seeding program, but a lot of questions tend to come up about that. But they're two separate things. Then we have there it is, Senate Bill 46 is Senator Stratton's bill on water-wise landscaping amendments that would define functional turf. We actually worked with him, and he did a lot of work since the bill he ran last year, and we think that this one would work in helping define what the functional uses for turf are, and then also encouraging that in areas where we do use turf, that it is watered wisely and with smart sprinkler controllers. And then I know there was, there's a few out there still that are protected, and we're kind of working through trying to make some changes, so I won't go into details on those. But again, nothing that I am seeing as earth-shattering, and we'll keep our tabs on it. And I know Carly is sharing our bill tracker with the council so that you can stay up to speed on the bills that we're following. Teresa, was there anything I missed that stands out to you on? Okay. Just thought I'd check.
May I add? I do think that there will be some land use related bills that might have an impact on utility infrastructure, and other items, perhaps some changes to LUDMA and CLUDMA. There's always that intersection between land use and water, so it's, I think, important to watch.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Joel. Any comments, questions for Joel? It's just starting. We got a long ways to go. So we'll see how it changes over the next few weeks. Appreciate that, Joel, very much. Okay. Moving on to the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan. And this time it's not Shalane. It's Keith. Keith's gonna.
Okay, I'm Keith Larson with Bone Cons and Associates. As the project manager with the team with Bone Cons and Brown Caldwell that worked on the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan. Because I apparently have about -2 minutes, I will try to get this very quickly. Go to this first slide. I have 4 quick slides just to summarize where we're at. Just a reminder of what our ask is right from the beginning. The Water Infrastructure Plan must be adopted by the Water Development Coordinating Council by March 1st. In order to do that, we have to provide this group a copy and have comments back by January 30th, which happens to be my birthday, so if you want to share any birthday wishes also, I'd appreciate it. But January 30th, so we're looking for comments by then. If we go to the next slide. Just in terms of what is in that document, it provides some background. It talks about historic use and our existing funds. It then shows the project list of all the projects we collected from across the state requesting funding. It develops a recommended funding prioritization approach and then provides recommendations to the legislature on funding level and how to distribute that funding. So the next slide here summarizes basically what we found. This is the punchline. There was $420 million of funding per year requested for the first 2 years. Our recommended level of funding is $200 million a year. There were a number of projects that weren't quite developed to the extent that they needed to be. There were other projects for entities that would not necessarily qualify. So ultimately, the first step here is recommending $200 million a year. $100 million can come from existing funding through the regular revolving loan program. So there would be an additional request for $100 million a year, and that would be distributed among the different agencies as shown in this table. If we go to the next slide, I think this is just a summary. We'd again remind you, comments due by my birthday, January 30th. And this was all contained in an email that it should have been sent to the council. Rachel Valak will be coordinating the comments. We'll be adopting by March 1st, and then if any of that funding is approved by the legislature, it would become available starting in July. I think that was the last one. I think next is just questions.
Clarify, July 2027 or July 2026?
Let's see. That, help me out, Eric.
Should say fiscal year 2027, starting July of
Yes, yeah, there you go. Okay.
I thought we had.
So starting in July 2026 for fiscal year 27. It's hard to keep those track of those.
But did you say that there's a draft already sent to the council?
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
see it.
It was on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, from Carly.
Gotta look at my emails.
Didn't have it. Let me know.
Okay. Excellent. That's good to know. So, any other insights? Questions, comments? This is a big one.
You went online here.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so I'm a little confused. The legislation that Casey Snyder passed last year seems to override both the Water Resources Board and the Drinking Water Board. That before you can even go to those boards, you've got to go to this new board that he created. Does this have something to do with that legislation?
This is exactly that legislation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, that's what I thought. Okay. So the question I have is, and I had it when I first read that legislation, and Casey's a good friend, is you've almost just totally cut those two boards that we've worked with for 30 plus years off at the knees to be able to make decisions on projects. Because if you don't have it in this other board and you have to have it a year ahead, how do you deal with a problem that arises during the year, which a lot of those happen all the time, if you don't have it on this list? It just seems like we piled on a whole extra level of bureaucracy, which drives me crazy, and I don't think Utah is known for that. And water development, water management. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I'm going to definitely talk to Casey and to the legislator friends to say, why in the world are we doing this? It's working great for the last 30 years. Why do we add this other level of bureaucracy into it? It sounds like you guys are you on this unified water infrastructure? The person that presented this, I didn't hear your name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Keith Larson, and it looks like
Your
Shalane's. come to
Your
help me out
birthday's
here.
January 31st. I got it written down.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yes,
That's
okay,
perfect.
you're on it.
Go ahead.
Hi, Shalane DiBernardi. I work with the Board of Water Resources. I'm an assistant director at Water Resources and wanted to provide a little clarification, hopefully, and address your question. We're hoping this doesn't cut off our board at the knees. The Water Resources is part of the Water Development Coordinating Council that is creating this UWIP. The UWIP has 3 relevant agencies. They include Water Resources, Water Quality, and Drinking Water. So basically the 3 primary boards that fund water projects throughout the state. What we're hoping that this does, and what we keep telling ourselves this will do, is create a clearer, more transparent, and hopefully at some point more efficient process for getting project funding. There are a couple of project types that are exempt from the whole ranking and prioritization process. Those include emergency projects and small projects. So those seek, at this point in time, we've defined small as seeking up to $300,000 in state funding. So not the same as what the Board of Water Resources currently considers small. But one of the main points of this is to more accurately align project types to the boards where they should be funded, so that it is expected that the Board of Water Resources will not be funding drinking water projects in the future, but they will be funded solely by the Board of Drinking Water. And so our funding may actually end up being shuffled around a little bit so that some of the board's funding might be sent to the Drinking Water Board if that's where it's needed. Since all of these boards, the state's revolving funds are now considered part of Water Infrastructure Fund money. They're not all in one fund, but they're considered the fund money. So they can be shuffled around to the projects that are ranked and prioritized by the council. And just to be clear, the council's final ranking is a compilation of the 3 relevant agencies' ranking of their individual types of projects they've been assigned. So yes, it does add another layer of submitting your project through the project portal and then hopefully being invited to apply to the board if there's funding available. It is a new process. We aren't sure how great it's going to work into the future. We're trying to remain open and work with what we've been directed to do.
Wow, that is a bit, you're going to eliminate water funding from the Water Resources Board. That's been the most beneficial, quickest way to solve project. That sounds like the dumbest move I've ever heard.
Yeah, we won't be eliminating. We won't be eliminating. That is not.
You said you're going to eliminate water projects from the Board of Water Resources.
No.
They won't be able to fund it.
No, our board will still fund water projects, primarily agriculture, secondary water. We won't be funding drinking water projects. Those will be handled by the Drinking Water Board. So it's just, yeah, it's a little different than what it has been. But no, our board will still have funding and will still fund projects.
Was this a bill that came forward from the Division of Drinking Water or from Water Resources?
No.
Or was this one that?
This was Representative Snyder's bill, House Bill 280 in 2024. So 2 years ago, House Bill 280 created this whole process.
So ask Representative Snyder about his visit to Israel. That's where
I definitely will. His visit to Israel?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, all their water, irrigation water
we
is
know.
all
It's state
level.
It's state run.
They still do flood. Yeah, it's all state run.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of differences, but he saw the need of some major, especially in the future, fairly near future of major funding needed by water systems. And this is his answer to that issue. So
Just add more bureaucracy to it.
Yeah,
That's
there
a
you
great
go.
answer.
Well, I will add that we're hoping at some point to add additional funding as well.
Well, I'm fine for the funding. I think it's a great idea, but why add this level of bureaucracy to it that requires you to submit projects and you don't even have the input into some board makes a decision that says, well, I think this is a good project and this is a bad project. That just sounds like pure bureaucracy to me. That's crazy.
And
I've only been in the business for 32 years, but it's worked really well here in Kane County. So I don't understand the changes there. It doesn't sound right to me.
go ahead.
I have a question about how the draft UIP is integrating with the funding study under HB 280 and the recommendations that came out there, as a just follow up to the discussion about additional funding. There were some recommendations, I believe, about charging water ratepayers and sewer ratepayers to fund statewide projects in those recommendations. So is that part of the draft UIP? I have opinions about that, by the way.
You and everybody else, Laura. I actually have heard from a few legislators. They're not thrilled with the results of the fee study and the pressure they're receiving. I will say because there is no new funding available at this point in time, there is no new fee proposed. There's the draft UWIP at this point contemplates what currently exists. And the only other thing, I hope you'll all take the time to read through that draft UWIP, even though it's a 330 something page document. Just give it a glance.
250 pages of that are tables and appendix, so don't get too intimidated.
Right. But I will note that the one thing that is recommended in that draft UWIP is that to be eligible for state funding, you do need, as a water provider, you need to be charging a certain amount. So it's not that we're incorporating any of the new fees or hopeful new funding into this process, but we are recommending that to be eligible, to be considered for UWIP funding, you need to be charging, I think it's 1.5% of MAGI.
Of the and that's like to make sure that there's skin in the game for the entities that are planning to take care of their own water and wastewater infrastructure.
Right, because as we heard through the fee study process, a lot of users are already charging possibly more than that 1.5% and don't want to be penalized for their planning by those who have not.
And those that are charging aren't, that doesn't go to the fund, the state fund. That stays with the water purveyor to use within their jurisdiction.
Yes.
Just one clarification on Laura's question. The legislation was set up with two separate parallel studies. So the UWIP study that is provided is only talking about projects and prioritization. The funding is a separate study that doesn't come through this group, right?
Well, no, it's been presented, it's published, it's available on the UWIP project's website. The fee study is there, and Laura was involved in the work group, so she knows.
And I think that's, I mean, just frankly, that's the challenging thing, is commenting on the prioritization in the UIP, not knowing where the funding is, because you could potentially in the future have entities that are putting funds into the system that do not get projects prioritized in the UIP. So.
That draft list is out there. So.
Rick.
So is there discussion or a bill that would apply this UWIF and actually fund it, like an appropriation, or they're still going to just discuss it this year? And Do you know? I haven't heard anything.
All I've received so far so Friday at the Legislative Water Development Commission, we presented the UWIP draft rules to the commission, and they still wanted to discuss the fees. And all we're hearing so far is a lot of negativity about the burden to be borne by the citizens, by the taxpayers of Utah, which we understand. And even the commission mentioned that, so here you're going to have a plan with no way to pay for it. And we said, well, this is what you told us to do, and we've done what you told us to do, and this is what we're recommending. And yeah, if all there is existing funds, I mean, we still have a decent amount, I think, for the first year, but it's not 300 million.
I think that this points out, like, though, something that's really important for us to hear is that there is such great need out there in the state, and the challenge is, how do we fulfill that need in a way that's effective and equitable? It's very, very difficult, and we're not the only state that's feeling this at all, but that's a really important outcome of this whole process.
Yes, and I think that has been the one very helpful thing for all legislators, everyone that's seeing this information, is when individual water providers are allowed to submit projects and say, we really need these projects over the next couple of years, we can prove, yes, there is millions of dollars needed. And some of that, it would be really helpful if it came from the state to be able to get these done.
I've got a question on that still, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
It's baffling to me that the vast majority of funding that the state gives is low interest rate funding that's repaid. And I can't understand if on all these projects, that if they're new projects, you borrow the money and you repay the money, why are we running out of money? If the money goes in and we pay for it, why doesn't the money come back? Because it's getting paid back on a regular basis. There's interest rate, even if it's zero interest, why doesn't the money come back? Why do we keep spending more money and have less money built up in revenues? I don't understand that.
Because projects are getting more and more expensive. Nothing's getting cheaper.
But they're paying them back.
And
So,
aging
I mean, if
Right.
I go buy a house, I'm going to pay it back. So what's the difference?
Well, it'll be there eventually, but yeah, and
I would note that the 100 million of existing funding includes repayment. The state is not currently funding that much. The state funds less than 50 million. And so 50 million is being paid back.
Right.
And
So-
and the Board of Water Resources does have funds available. And I think that's part of why there's been discussion about this might need to be shared around to the other agencies who are running out.
But Board of Water Resources doesn't give any grants.
No, we don't.
You pay everything back. And so that's what I'm
Except
trying
for
to
dam
say.
safety upgrades. Yes, you're correct.
Dam safety is the one.
Yes.
That's it, not in that. But what I'm trying to say is, where is the money going that's being paid back? It seems like that fund ought to keep growing and growing and growing, as opposed to now, we need more money. At least in water resources, it should.
Well,
I don't get
and this is, you are correct. Our funds have been growing and growing and growing. And I think that's part of what led to this is why are other boards running out? Because they do hardship grants, or there are certain requirements that are tied to the funding they provide alongside federal funds, which we don't have. The Board of Water Resources doesn't have federal funds. We don't do many grants, like I said, except for dam safety. But the sheer number of projects that we're funding now and the amount that's going out, yes, it does seem to be growing, but so does the need. The need has continuously grown. And I mean, I'll mention this, the sheer amount of money that we've loaned out in conjunction with secondary meter projects that were funded primarily with grant funds given to us by the legislature, provided by the feds through ARPA, provided huge amounts of money for secondary meters, and yet we still had to provide a lot of funds from the Board of Water Resources to help complete those projects, because even at a 70% grant, most of the entities providing secondary water couldn't fund that remaining 30% on their own. They needed assistance. So there was 1 year in these few years we've done ARPA secondary meter projects, 1 year we loaned out $33 million. That was 1 year, and we've been doing this now for almost 3.5. So
yeah, I appreciate that. We were beneficiaries to that. And guess what? We've cut, by putting new meters in, we've cut water use, and we've reduced the need for culinary water that has to be treated. So you're going to get a major payback here over the next 10, 15 years for that.
Exactly.
We're going to have more water available. We don't have to treat it, and we're not going to have to pay for all new culinary water. So I get it. So again, I say it's working really good. Why fix it?
So one of the needs for additional funds is that we've been putting in infrastructure for the last 80 years in this state plus, and a lot of it has met its engineered life, and there's billions, literally billions, tens of billions of dollars in need to replace all that infrastructure. And so it's an issue for sure.
The feds aren't paying like
no, the feds have stepped out and left the state and the local entities to go on with it. We've got to move on. I appreciate any of the comments. If you've got additional questions for Shalane or Keith,
certainly
please
reach out.
Please reach out.
I have one more question that's unique to me and to our county. We have 8% private property. 8%. All of our people are on that 8%. Right. So you think of what we can get in property taxes to run our community. It's minimal. It's very minimal. And we get nothing from that 92%.
Correct.
Nothing. We don't get anything.
Yep, I agree. All right, thank you for the comments. We really don't have a lot of time to talk about our strategic planning, unfortunately. But we do want to do something. I don't know what to do, but what we do want to do, I think, is meet as a subcommittee, and those again that are interested, please let me know, and talk about some of the issues, address some of the issues that we've talked about today, as well as talk about some of the planning for future council meetings. And and if you have any suggestions, please email him. Carly and I both get several emails between our council meetings about either agencies or individuals that want to hear about something or other, and so that's been very, very helpful. And all of them are very important topics. Have been right on task as far as what we need to hear. So those have been helpful. So keep bringing those to the council and to Carly.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
It came up in the last meeting whether there was a list of all the suggested topics you guys have ever come up with. There is. It's really long. So read through that and let me and Scott know which ones are the priorities. And I think that'll be really helpful. And then, we'll get the subcommittee together and do some planning.
All right, thank you. Okay, we do need to take care of some business, so we need approval of the meeting minutes for October 14th.
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve and second to approve the minutes of October 14th. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Rick and
Bill, I think seconded.
Any questions on the motion for sure? Too late. Okay, there you go. Okay, approve the minutes, done. So we're just confirming the local watershed council reporting schedules for 2026. So in April, we've got the Western Colorado River, Southeastern Utah, and Great Salt Lake, and we're probably going to try to fit Kanab in there somewhere. So that's April. April 9th is where it's scheduled. So July 9th, Bear River, Weber River, and Utah Lake. And then October 6th is Jordan River and Uintah and West Desert. So just kind of prepare your presentations and remarks for those particular dates. I think the presentations have been great, and it's even really good to hear some of the challenges that we're seeing and that some of the local councils are seeing. So that gives us a chance to try to address some of those. Okay, confirmation of the next meeting being April 9th, 1 to 3 here in the auditorium. So any questions on that? Any issues? Do we need to reschedule? Good.
Mr. Chair, quick question.
Yes.
I know around this time last year, we went down and visited Kanab.
Correct.
And I think I understood that maybe there was a desire to do occasional meetings to accommodate those that are in some of the more remote parts of the state. Is that the intention for any of the meetings this year, to do them in alternate locations?
We haven't yet, but it definitely could be.
I thought I'd just bring it up because if
Yeah.
we need to plan travel time and other things,
Right.
it might be helpful to know that.
It does, instead of a couple hours, it takes a couple of days. By the time we travel, we have our meeting, we take a little short tour of some of the facilities, but it does take a couple of days. So, but I think it was very worthwhile last year. Mike gave a great tour and presentation of his, from his council, so.
We love having you down. Come on down again.
Will do.
I know Mike would love to host us again, so.
Okay, we'll also discuss that in our sub-council meetings as well.
Great.
But if any of you would like us to visit, we can somehow fit it into our calendars for sure. So we would like to do that. All right, any other public comment at this point? Anybody in the auditorium or online that would like to comment? Rick?
Keep praying for snow. We all need water.
We are struggling. We are really struggling. It's we still got a few months of winter, but we could use some snow for sure. Soil moisture is looking great, 130%, something like that.
We're just grateful winter finally arrived here in northern Utah.
Exactly. Yep. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in and say, if you guys wanted to do a shared stewardship tour, we'd love to host you in Beaver, the Beaver River. It's right down I-15, wouldn't be too far to go to.
Excellent. Let's see, Beaver. That's usually our January. It doesn't really have to match their presentation, but okay, good to know. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy.
Yep.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to thank Carly for the emails that will be coming to keep us up on the session. I really appreciate that.
Oh, good,
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll keep the bill tracker coming, so you can be informed on what's critical. All right. I think that's it. So we'll adjourn the meeting. We'll have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved. Soren Simon's here. I'm sitting in for Laura.
Motion, second.
Second.
Take your pick.
All in favor, say aye. Motion
Aye.
carries. Thank you, everyone. We will see you in April.